Gacha games. Yeah, we're talking about them again. There's something of an oddity in the modern gaming sphere. They're often distanced from most other video games and rarely discussed by creators outside of sponsorships. But after becoming fascinated with them, addicted, last year, I decided to tackle the subject. The first time I made a video on gacha games, I praised them and expressed my interest in the genre while poking fun at addicting design tactics. Upon taking a look at the JoJo gacha games in a later video, I discovered some very questionable design choices that eventually led to the demise of Diamond Records. And now, consider this the final chapter in this strange trilogy, because do you know how hard it is to make a video with vertical footage of gacha games? This shit is so boring to watch. Like, do I use this purple scrolling background or make it look like a World Star Fight video or what? This video has expanded heavily in scope and size since I first got the idea, so I'm splitting it up into parts to make it sound less like a ramble about anime gambling and more like a somewhat intelligible video essay. I fear for my sanity. Part 1. My journey with gacha games. It's been a long time since I first got interested in mobile games. I've been playing since the beginning of the smartphone era, installing banger after banger on my iPod Touch, from Angry Birds to Jetpack Joyride to Monument Valley. I also played my fair share of city builders and endless runners, games like Clash of Clans, Tiny Tower, Temple Run, Subway Surfers, and yes, I was there to watch the transition to microtransactions that I explained in my previous video. Many of the mobile games I used to play were purchased for under $5, but boy has it been a hot minute since I last installed an app that wasn't free. That doesn't mean that I haven't spent money though. Quite the opposite. The first gacha game I became heavily invested in was Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, back when it was still called Unchained X. I started in 2016 when the global release was still in its infancy, and I had a great time. Although I wasn't a Kingdom Hearts fan, I became invested in the strategy of team building and the enjoyment of collecting Final Fantasy and Disney characters. People on the subreddit were helpful in answering questions and creating quest guides, and I eventually submitted an application to join a party called Dearly Beloved. I joined their Discord and genuinely enjoyed my time with the game. However, over the span of a couple years, Union Cross began to sour, and many in the party slowly quit the game, unable to keep up with the blatant pay-to-participate system the developers were implementing with PvP, VIP bonuses, and ridiculous amounts of power creep. At some points, I was tempted and spent money to get crazy strong units that were rendered useless in a few weeks, and I eventually quit the game too, but I was already too deep in the genre to stop. Now, I'm not trying to say that gacha games are the devil. I still love Dragalia Lost, a game packed with quality and style. I own the soundtrack for a mobile game on CD. The gameplay is more entertaining than other gachas I've tried, with high-level quests functioning similarly to MMO raids. They require a knowledge of each specific fight, item prep, and team coordination, and I found it to be much more engaging than the somewhat overused turn-based combat system in most gachas. I've had a blast playing harder missions with existing friends and making new ones, but Dragalia is the outlier for me. And around the time I made my first gacha video in April of 2019, I was definitely playing more than just one. I began to go through loops of getting addicted to games, re-rolling units, grinding the hell out of them for a month or two, and then getting overwhelmed by overly complex strategy or absurd pay-to-win roadblocks. I think one of my biggest personal issues with most gachas is that I can't seem to enjoy them from a gameplay perspective unless I start on day one. These games introduce so many new mechanics, upgrades, equipment, and more that starting too late feels like getting dropped into a turn-based RPG 60 hours in, and you have no fucking clue what anything means or no idea if you're using your items and summons right or just wasting them. They have a constant barrage of tutorials and menus, and alongside various wikis and Reddit threads, I end up being unable to retain all the information I need to get to the end game or the fun part. I had my fun enjoying art styles or cute gameplay design, but when I really look back, most of these games didn't provide me with anything lasting, at least not like a traditional video game would. There were no real memories or things I'd take away from the experience itself. Sure, the girls were hot and the guys are also hot, and no, that's a vegetable, stop. Dude, there was this one time where I pressed a button on King of Fighters that autoed my stamina on the gold quest until I ran out. Or like, I remember this one time where I pressed jump and slide on Cookie Run just like everyone else, but then I got sad because
my cookie wasn't as high level as the people who paid money to get to the top of the leaderboards.
Many gacha games implement conscious, money-focused design choices and psychological tricks like daily rewards, loss aversion, Skinner boxes, and other terms I definitely didn't just steal from a Game Maker's Toolkit video to keep players hooked and spending. I comedically shrugged them off in my original video, but after reading through YouTube comments and discussions in different gacha communities, I often find it strange how playful everyone is about tactics that have become normalized here that would seem disgraceful in any other genre. I'm not joking when I say some gachas are kept alive by a very small number of players that spend small fortunes to be the best of the best. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars on individual games. Now, while I'd probably rather put a down payment on a house than acquire every version of Kyrie and Union Cross, I can't say I'm immune to the draws of gacha. Did I literally just spend $25 to buy a single character last week? Yes. Does that mean I'd recommend it? That she was worth as much as 2 copies of Hollow Knight? No! But then again, who am I to judge value? I have a wall covered in children's toys that I keep in the boxes. As long as people play gacha responsibly and understand common mobile game tactics, which admittedly is a strange thing to have to preface a game genre with, it's a perfectly normal thing to enjoy. However, just like most games that include microtransaction mechanics, they can become financially destructive for people with addictive tendencies. I even felt my interest in gacha games turn into an obsession, but the price I paid was time. I began re-rolling for days on games I'd never play, just for the satisfaction of getting new units. There was an adrenaline rush in getting the SSS on the tier lists that I didn't even really care about. I re-rolled the King of Fighters gacha every day in my spare time for over a week to get a single unit for someone else. Fellas, I was playing the Sword Art Online gacha. Therapists near me. I don't have any logs saved from last year, but if you were to take one look at my phone's screen time dashboard, it was clear I spent a lot of time with these games from the 6 or more hours I'd log each day. Even recently, after getting back into a singular game, I find myself playing Dragalia way more than I should be. And whether or not it's autoing quests or active play, gachas can end up being a huge time sink if you're not careful. At some point down the line, I realized I could do so many better things with the time I was sinking into these games every week. There are tons of mobile games that are well made and genuinely entertaining, but I think that I was playing them for the wrong reasons. I lost the connection I had with most of these games in the first place, and they turned into a permanent distraction I could sink infinite amounts of time into, lying to myself that the progress I made was valuable. Late last year, I realized how little fun I was actually having with the genre and decided to cut myself off. Not to everything completely, but to most of the games I had installed or was considering installing. I've kept the 1 or 2 games that, as far as I can tell, bring me genuine enjoyment without the psychological addiction. One by one, as I deleted the games I'd played over the years, I thought of all the progress I'd made. The progress is what kept me hooked the whole time. You auto a bunch of quests and press a bunch of shiny buttons for rewards, and suddenly months have passed and you'd never even consider deleting the game. It gets worse if you invest real money, which I luckily haven't done outside of small amounts on a couple games, and yeah, maybe over $100 on Dragalia, but I want to get back to playing amazing games. Games that, as cheesy as it sounds because it's practically my catchphrase at this point, fill me with childlike wonder. I played the Final Fantasy VII Remake recently and I really enjoyed it. I could literally be clearing a game of that length every week or two with the idle time I was dumping into phone games. Or, you know, working on my amazing upload schedule. As we approach the end of my own story with gacha games, we've only looked at a small corner of what the mobile market has to offer. While one of the main reasons I got into these games was their connection to existing franchises or anime I was a fan of, not every mobile game can have an SSR Winnie the Pooh to lure in players. So what about the realm of mobile games that don't find a player base through their existing connections to anime and game franchises? What about games that seem to be out for money as opposed to creating a quality experience? The ones that need to use aggressive advertising and addicting design tactics to find their big spenders. Welcome to part 2, mobile game sponsors. With this video, I'm not trying to diss on anyone for their interest in mobile games or on YouTubers taking sponsorships or anything like that. I have friends who've taken these sponsors for one reason or another, and they're pretty damn important in helping creators continue to produce content nowadays. However, as someone who has actually ventured into the depths of what these games have to offer, I feel like I have a much more critical opinion when it comes to this type of thing. Like, has any creator actually played Raid Shadow Legends for more than 10 minutes to get the footage they need for the ad read? I actually tried it to see how bad and generic it really is, and may I just say,
taking the world by storm, these nuts.
The followings we build as YouTubers are an advertiser's dream. If you really enjoy my content and respect my opinions when I review games, and I were to be sponsored to talk positively about a product, that is way more influential and powerful than an annoying pop-up you close when watching a video. And that leaves a permanent mark on me as a creator, and to some, it may weaken my opinion when I try to be serious like this. Fuck does it matter if I say I like Sonic Mania if I also say Sonic Forces is the most ambitious RPG of the decade with hundreds of champions to collect? I often see comments and arguments along the lines of, everyone knows Raid Shadow Legends is a bad game, or that it's just an ad read and no one takes them seriously. But if that were the case, they wouldn't still be dishing out millions of dollars for people to talk about their games. Raid has over 10 million downloads and is in the top 25 grossing games on both iOS and Android. Someone's playing these games.
Mom, did you just install Raid Shadow Legends?
And trust me, Raid wants you to spend money. Out of all the gachas and mobile games I've tried, Raid was one of the worst I've ever seen when it comes to incessant pop-ups from the start, trying to get me to spend $20 to $50 at a time. While most gamers might dismiss a game like Candy Crush Saga, it's still surprising that a game designed as play until you have to play more and then pay for power-ups so you can play more, or pay for extra turns because we made the levels impossible on purpose, is still one of the highest grossing games in the App Store. Ah, fuck. There's a huge casual audience for these kinds of games, and this extends to genres like virtual gambling, since mobile games and microtransactions have no regulation if the user can't cash out for real money. The developers can also implement predatory tactics to detect addicts and keep them spending, but that's a huge can of worms I'm not informed enough to open at the moment. What I do know is that ad reads are powerful, and I often think about the ways certain games promote themselves. I think sponsorship campaigns with forced scripts filled with blatant, obvious lies are a big factor in revealing a company's intentions for their game compared to other games on the market. Basically, I think people should think more critically about the reception and acceptance that these products receive when integrated into the YouTube advertising sphere. And maybe the government should jump on that whole idea of regulating an industry that generates $50 billion a year. Sometimes I feel like I'm pulling my punches because this is complicated stuff, but don't worry, I watched a handful of news reports and developer conferences about keeping players addicted and designing social games just to make money, and fuck that shit, dude. I could physically see a gateway to hell opening in the background. Gonna have to sleep with my nightlight and a copy of Kirby Air Ride. Jesus Christ. Part 3. Gacha mechanics are everywhere. I surveyed a handful of friends and fellow gacha enthusiasts to expand my horizons on this stuff, and a common sentiment I found was that they're tired of the negative connotations associated with the genre. There are misconceptions that there's no skill involved in any gacha game, or that they're all just pay-to-win cash grabs, while many can be fully enjoyed without spending a cent. Others said some believe gacha games aren't real video games simply because they're played on a phone or tablet. Why would anyone spend money to get
JPEGs of anime girls?
Said the gamer, dumping another $20 into League to buy the new skin for his favorite character.
This joke isn't funny anymore.
Like I mentioned before, I think certain gacha games are super rad and have a lot of care put into them, from character artwork to music and collabs to an incredible amount of strategy and mechanics. That's why I enjoy analyzing them and discussing what I think is acceptable when it comes to keeping players engaged over time versus blatant disrespect for a player base. There's nothing wrong with developing attractive or powerful characters to keep your players interested, but spitting in their faces and hoping they'll stay addicted predicted is another. Look no further than Fire Emblem Heroes' new FEH Pass, a highly controversial $10 a month subscription that adds the ability to freely restart turns, distributes powerful stat-boosted characters, and locks rudimentary gacha features like autoing quests behind a paywall. Can you fucking imagine celebrating the 3rd anniversary of your game by going,
Hello, we hope you've been enjoying your time in the world of Fire Emblem Heroes. For our 3rd anniversary,
More. Give us more. Come on.
Or how about Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, a game which has barred a massive amount of progression quests, damage multipliers, and all-around useful features behind a paywall of $15 per week since the beginning, only worsening its pay-to-win nature with the introduction of features like Supernova and 7-star medals, which make new units so batshit powerful that the ones released a few weeks prior are rendered absolutely useless. And who could forget when Bandai Namco said, hey, let's reset everyone's progress and make this beat-em-up JoJo game people kinda like into a turn-based combat game we can power creep the shit out of. I bet we'll make so much money. Oh shit. No gacha game is perfect. It's not like Dragalia doesn't have problems just like every other game, as I could talk for quite a while on the topic of split and limited banners without mercy summons, or the awkward divide between easy and hard content amidst insane weapon scaling and shadow element power creep. I speak so highly of the game because at the end of the day, I still enjoy playing it, and I know that sentiment can extend to other games for other people. The reason I don't bash all mobile games or take a more definitive offish stance is because I've played them, but I've played a lot of online games, and most of them are far from perfect. A single-player game that can be cleared and generates revenue from the initial purchase functions differently from a constantly evolving online experience that requires repeated player spending to survive. In fact, the elements often chastised in gacha are present in many popular games, and that's even if we choose to ignore things like rotating skin shops in battle royales and season passes and DLC expansions in games like Destiny 2. Daily quests, Valorant, a lot of modern MMOs, pretty much every card game. World of Warcraft invented that shit. Well, Neopets technically. Limited edition cosmetics and gameplay items hidden behind random chants, any game with a loot box system, including Overwatch and again, games like Hearthstone. At least you can actually buy specific rare cards for a couple bucks in Legends of Runeterra. And if you're gonna compare a game to gambling, you can't get much more literal than CSGO. This is a game that has a public market unrelated to its gameplay to buy and sell skins and a trade system that inspired skin betting and gambling websites not only marketed to children, but so rigged by the site owners and in violation of existing gambling laws that Valve had to say, hey guys, check out this sick new tech I found. I call it a cease and desist. A Dragon Lore op skin in Counter-Strike Global Offensive once sold for $61,000. And you have the audacity to tell me that gacha games are just a cute anime girl cash grab? I'll have you know that acquiring the big titty anime girl is only half the work. If you don't build the right weapons, equip the right dragon and worm prints, and learn the rotations and attack patterns for Volcon Expert, you're gonna die and then get sorried right out of that fucking co-op lobby. I know a few people who have spent thousands of dollars on individual mobile games, but I also have friends that spend hundreds opening CSGO crates. Monetized incentives can take many forms in games, but that doesn't inherently make them bad games, as long as the developers are dedicated to crafting an enjoyable experience as opposed to focusing on maximizing profits and manipulating addicted players.
so we calling Pokemon cards bad game design now, or what?
Part 4. What the heck is my point? The realm of gacha should always be seen as a temporary one. These games require a constant internet connection to play, which in turn requires constant maintenance and server costs. They rely on the player base to spend money so they can continue developing new features, levels, and subsequently new things to spend money on. Some games become industry giants and get their own Arxis fighting game and multiple seasons of anime. Damn, A1 Pictures? And Mappa did season 2. Guys, I'll be right back. I'm making a gacha game. But others aren't so lucky. They fizzle out and die completely within a few years. And when these games die, there are no remnants of progress. They won't remain on into the future. There's nothing to play a decade or two down the road if the servers shut down. So the question I asked myself when quitting and evaluating most gachas was, if this game closed tomorrow, would I be happy from all the good times I had playing it, or just upset, feeling like all my money was wasted and my meaningless progress deleted? And that's where I figured out how to end this video. You know that classic cop-out ending in stories where the real treasure was the friends we made along the way? Well, what if I told you that it's kind of the end of this story? It's certainly a strange feeling, but I've met new people and made friends on the internet through just about every interest I have, including those toys on the wall. And gacha games are no different. Remember that awful game called Kingdom Hearts Union Sorry, I'm getting off track again. That party, Dearly Beloved, was super fun to be a part of. Bantering in Discord and running around together in multiplayer raids spamming aw shucks are the things I actually enjoyed about playing Union Cross. I still chat regularly with the party's original leader who taught me One Piece Treasure Cruise before I stopped playing that one, and accompanied me and my buddy Kevin in our party in Ulala before we stopped playing that one too. Hell, one of the main reasons I became friends with Kevin and the friends I met through my other friend Scooch was because we shared a common interest in gacha games. Also, not gonna lie, I thought about taking a sponsorship for Ulala, but there's no fucking way I could make a 10-minute dedicated video on an idle progression mobile game and keep my soul from shooting out of my body. Dragalia Lost still holds true as my favorite gacha game for now, and it just so happens that someone I played a high dragon trial with in the Dragalia Discord watches my videos. They invited me to another server and introduced me to a whole new group of awesome people that helped me clear harder quests I had only dreamed of clearing in the past. They make the game genuinely fun to play again after months of mindless event grinding. So yes, I'm going all in on the cheesy cliche. At the end of the day, the best thing I got out of gacha games over the course of my slow descent into madness wasn't the cute anime PNGs, or the amount of times I autoed that gold quest, or even my iron resolve to never miss a daily reward, but the friends I made along the way. So thank you, gacha games, I guess. I hope more people can come to understand this wacky genre, pay-to-win subscription passes can suck my dick, and man, it's gonna be weird if I ever decide to do a mobile game sponsorship in the future after this video. At least I can finally delete all those emails. Well, we finally made it to the end of the video. This ended up taking like 3 weeks to make, so I do hope you enjoyed listening to me explore the maddening realm of gacha. Feel free to leave a comment if you've got your own opinions about this stuff, I'd love to hear it. If you want to support my work, please consider checking out my Patreon in the description. I just released the first video in an exclusive series where I talk more casually about the games I've enjoyed each month, along with giving some behind the scenes into my videos. But regardless, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. And now we're on the end screen, so I can give a big ol' thank you to Ectoscreen, Night Dream, Trend Wrecked, and all my other patrons.